It's another edition of The Maze on ASO Television, a weekly update on activities at both chambers of the National Assembly. I am Rosemary UKOKO-TEGA. You're welcome on board. Topping today's chat: motion on flooding minutes in FCT at the House, debate on recurring industrial action by medical doctors at Senate, and proposal for world standard training facilities for Nigeria Customs Service. These and more today on The Maze. Watch live on DSTV channel 392, StarTimes TV channel 127, Free TV channel 507 on the UHF band on channel 38. You can watch all editions of The Maze on our YouTube channel, ASO Radio and Television.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, StarTimes Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
This is The Maze on ASO Television. We kick off from the floor of the Green Chamber. The House lately has been inundated with motions on the subject matter flooding and associated disasters. One such motion, a call for government's intervention on the perennial flooding in the Federal Capital Territory FCT, was moved by Mr. Joshua Obika and seconded by Mr. Abdullahi Halims on the floor of the House. Let's have the content of the motion by the sponsor.
The House notes that the alarming upsurge of flood in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, over the years due to heavy, uncontrollable floods, leaving tales of woes in the minds of the affected families. Also note that the periodic flooding in Lokogoma, Galadimawa, and particularly Trademore Estate and other adjoining estates on the airport road, which has led to the loss of lives and properties. Aware that the Trademore Estate currently housing over 20,000 people and have been in existence since 2007, when the first set of residents was allocated houses through a mortgage process administered by the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. Worried that the perennial flooding is on the increase geometrically, bearing in mind the recent havoc at the Trademore Estate as a result of heavy rainfall on the 23rd of June 2023.
Kindly go to your prayers, please, after that paragraph.
Okay. 2023, when the houses were submerged in the water, while some were pulled down and killing a lecturer at the University of Abuja. Resolved to, Mr. Speaker, urge the FCT Emergency Management Agency to provide relief materials to the victim of Trademore Estate
The House mandated the Committee on Federal Capital Territory Administration to ensure compliance of all resolutions. Now, similar motion bordering on collapse of River Benue and call for government's intervention is standing in the name of a Benue lawmaker, Mr. Ojotu Ojema.
The House notes the state or community in Apagatu Federal Constituency as a swim in ocean of flooding annually, especially residents of Igminyi community in Agatu local government area who live around the Benue River. Also note that year in, year out, Benue Rivers, which is supposed to attract tourists and consistently revenue to federal government and the people of Benue State, it has now brought nothing but agony to the people that live around the river and area. Because of our time, I want to very quickly go to the prayer, as it has been called the tradition of this honorable house. Mr. Speaker, I wish to urge the House to urge the federal government, Federal Ministry of Environment, Ecological Fund Office, and the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing to address the menace of erosion and flooding in Apa Agatu Federal Constituency. Also urge the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to open a substation within the federal constituency to provide quick succor to flood and erosion victims pending the resolution of the ecological problems. Mandate the Committee on Environment, Ecology, and Special Duty, when constituted, to engage the Federal Ministry of Environment, Ecological Fund Office, to come up with a lasting work plan to arrest the erosion and flooding problem experienced by the people of Apagatu Federal Constituency. Distinguished Honorable Speaker, I hereby move. Thank you very much.
The House, in adopting the motion, urged the Federal Ministry of Environment, Ecological Fund Office, and the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing to address the menace of erosion and flooding in Apa Agatu Federal Constituency. The motion, as voted on and adopted, was referred to the House Committee on Environment, Ecology, as well as that on Special Duties for immediate action. Another motion standing in the name of a lawmaker, Mr. Austin Achado, is bordering on the state of some portions of the Makurdi-Otukpo Road in Benue State. The lawmaker in his motion informed colleagues of the need to declare an emergency on the stretch of Naka-Makurdi, Alede-Gboko and Alede-Otukpo Federal Road network of Benue State. Now Mr. Austin to the mic.
Concerned that this strategic road axis has become so dilapidated that it is now tagged death trap and security threat to all contiguous citizens that use the road for transportation of grains and yams from Benue State to southern and northern parts of the nation. Also concerned that the acute neglect of this road has been so ignored for so long despite the havoc it wreaks on the nation's food security, especially at this moment of increasing economic pressure on the rural population, further fueled by the growing cost of transportation arising from recent fuel subsidy removal, thus making it imperative to urgently address the road menace. Concerned that an emergency intervention to restore the Naka-Makurdi, Alede-Gboko, and Alede-Otukpo Federal Road network has both security and economic implications that should be immediately addressed. Resolves to urge the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing to declare an emergency on the Naka-Makurdi, Alede-Gboko, and Alede-Otukpo Federal Road network, and direct the Federal Ministry of Federal Road Maintenance Agency to immediately commence restorative work on the road axis as a security and strategic imperative. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And to mandate the Committee on Works, when constituted, to ensure implementation. I so move.
Any seconder?
The House, among other resolutions, urged the Federal Ministry of Works to ensure adequate budgetary provision in the 2024 budget to comprehensively address the restoration of the deteriorating state of the captured road to restore its social and economic viability. Before we branch over at the Red Chamber, we take a briefing session of the House Committee on HIV and AIDS, Tuberculosis and Malaria. Chairman of the committee, Mr. Amobi Oga, told newsmen mandate of the committee is to reduce malaria mortality rate by at least 90% in 2030. Here.
The House Committee on HIV, AIDS, Tuberculosis and Malaria Control is not unmindful of the challenges being faced by Nigerians in the fight against this ailment, especially in the fight against the control of malaria in the country, which appear to defy solutions. The committee will work with the relevant stakeholders in the fight against malaria in ensuring that monies budgeted for are used for the purpose for which they are made. The prevalence of fake malaria drugs will be looked into to avoid further deaths recorded. We will carry out our oversight function to ascertain the role of primary health care in the rollback malaria program. Nigeria is a country in need of protection from malaria. Its death toll from the disease makes up nearly a third of the world's 619,000 malaria deaths a year. The committee will partner with the USAID, WHO, UNEP, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Federal Ministry of Health, the Global Fund for Malaria Control, Society for Family Health, among other stakeholders, in ensuring that malaria is eradicated in the country or reduced to the barest minimum. We will also ensure adequate implementation of legislation geared towards the eradication of malaria in the country. Where such legislations are not adequate, we will work to provide the needed amendment to such existing legislations for the general good of the Nigerian people.
The lawmaker also reviewed strategies to be deployed by the committee to further enhance the fight against HIV and AIDS.
In the area of HIV/AIDS, the WHO reports that the disease remains a major global public health issue, having claimed over 32.9 and 51.3 million lives so far, with ongoing transmission in all countries globally. Nigeria is not left out of this trend. There is still no cure for HIV infection. However, with access to effective HIV prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and care, including for opportunistic infections, HIV infection has become a manageable chronic health condition, enabling people living with HIV to live long and healthy lives. The mandate of sensitizing the people falls on NACA, which is one of the agencies we will oversight. We will work to strengthen the fight against HIV and AIDS in the country. We will ensure that the National Agency for the Control of AIDS is strengthened through legislation and funding to be in a better position to deliver on its mandate, while also ensuring accountability and probity.
And containing the scourge of tuberculosis is part of the committee's mandate.
In November 2021, the World Health Organization reported that although Nigeria recorded a gain in its fight against TB that is tuberculosis, in 2020. The country still ranks 6th among 30 tuberculosis high burden countries in the world and has the highest burden in Africa. The world today said the situation in Nigeria necessitates a continuous strategic intervention by the federal government, the WHO, and partners to reduce the burden of diseases in the country by 2030. As such, as a committee, we will ensure adequate oversight of all agencies under our purview, while also strengthening the fight against tuberculosis in Nigeria. We will carry out a conscious campaign within our legislative function to ensure that all tuberculosis centers in the country are well funded to carry out their mandate. The onus is on you and I to work towards achieving a Nigerian Sustainable Development Goal, SDG, which falls under good health and well-being.
The House Committee Chairman recognized the imperative of partnership with the media in achieving all the committee set out to do. We have now successfully landed on the floor of the Senate. One motion that enjoyed robust debate by senators was on incessant strikes embarked upon by medical doctors. Motion on the subject was moved by an Ogun State Senator, Shuaib Afolabi Salisu, aka SAS. It was co-sponsored by the Deputy Senate President and one other senator. The senator now presents the motion.
The Senate notes that the healthcare sector is an essential service that requires utmost attention to ensure the welfare, well-being, and wellness of Nigerians. Aware that there are only 24,000 doctors available to over 200 million population, with a current ratio of 1 doctor to over 9,000 patients, in stark contrast with WHO's recommendation of 1 doctor to 600 patients. Further aware that Nigeria has witnessed mass exodus of very experienced medical professionals in recent times and is therefore in dire shortage of healthcare professionals. Observe that the ongoing strike by resident doctors has resulted in suspension of critical health services, healthcare services, further exacerbating the fragile public health situation across the country. Further observe that it is imperative for the federal government to promptly address the concerns of the resident doctors and find lasting solutions to prevent future occurrences of the strikes that disturb our healthcare services now and then. Concerned that the outbreak of a highly contagious and deadly diphtheria disease in some states poses a significant public health concern and requires immediate, effective, and coordinated intervention. Further concern that the ongoing strike by the resident doctors has led to the suspension of essential healthcare services, negatively impacting patients' access to medical care, and concern that the well-being and health of Nigerian citizens are paramount, and the government must prioritize efforts to contain the diphtheria outbreak and ensure access to quality healthcare services.
I want to reiterate that popular saying that health is life. And who are the managers? Who are the key people that drive our healthcare delivery system? Of course, the doctors. So if the doctors are not working, it therefore means that our healthcare sector will be grounded. And it's grounded as we say, as we speak. It is therefore very, very important. Very, very, very important that we do all within our powers to make them come back to work. Because if we don't do that, then we all know that health is life, then there won't be life. Or our lives will be in great jeopardy. So I align myself with all that is said in this motion. I align myself to the intendment of this motion, because it's very, very, very important that we get our doctors back to work. Otherwise, we'll be in problem. It is said over and over again that as we speak, there's a disease outbreak in some parts of this country. Now, do we now add salt to an open injury? No, we wouldn't do that. Therefore, let's all agree to the prayers of this motion. Let's all agree to this motion in its entirety, so that we'll bring back our doctors to their various hospitals, and will enhance and also make sure that our lives will be saved, because we'll have the service of these doctors. I urge my colleagues to support this motion in its entirety, so that all the barriers will be resolved in the manner that it will be beneficial to the entire country. I so submit.
Thank you.
Now to the debate and remarks by President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio. The distinguished practically begged the doctors to sheath the sword.
I'm a co-sponsor of this motion. Mr. President, this morning I listened to the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors on television, and I think we can marry part of their demands with our discussions here. They made it known that on May 19, 2023, which is this year, they signed an MOU with federal government after meeting with the Senate and House of Rep Committee on Health, and that within that period and now, nothing has come out of the MOU. So I want to add that we make appeal to them to resume work and possibly work on how the agreement reached as contained in the MOU could be settled within them. They made known of 3 demands, sir. That the request for one-for-one replacement policy for healthcare workers, that's a policy. That they want immediate payment of all salaries, arrears, and new hazard allowance. That was what?
Point of order.
I stand to amend the motion that we referred the issue to a committee of the Senate when constituted, because they said that they've met with the combined committees of the Senate and the House of Rep before, and an MOU had been signed. I would rather suggest that we take off from the point of that MOU. I so submit.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my contribution will be very few words. Number one, this motion is very timely, because these resident doctors are the doctors who are the most critical workforce in our tertiary hospitals, vis-a-vis the teaching hospitals and federal medical centers. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, they are the middle and the junior cadre of our hospitals, and their services cannot be neglected. Sometimes in 2016, when I was in the House of Reps, when I was a member, I led the delegation of the then leadership of the resident doctors to meet with to interface with leadership of the National Assembly. We even met the then president before, because we had a serious negotiation on this issue of lingering crisis in the health sector. We resolved it then. I'm appealing to this Nigerian Senate, these young colleagues, for this our Senate to consider it expedient to have a committee as it contained in the motion paper, so that there will be serious interface with the federal government, so that this issue of tomorrow there will be strike, they will call it off and go. This matter did not start with this particular government. It is something that has lingered for a very long time. I believe that there must be give and take between the resident doctors and the federal government. At the same time, we want to use this motion as captioned by the mover and the sponsors to appeal to some of our colleagues for them to see reason to call off the strike, pending the time the federal government will do the needful. I so contribute. Thank you, Mr. President.
In supporting it, I wish to state as follows, Mr. President, with your kind permission, that this motion is not only timely, but it's also an emergency. Coming shortly after the motion I moved yesterday on the issue of diphtheria outbreak, I think that the motion deserves all the support we can garner. And I watched the news yesterday. Most television stations depicted the pathetic state of most federal medical centers because, yeah, the picture was pathetic in the sense that most doctors have abandoned their duty post. And in areas where few doctors were working, they stated clearly that the notice of the strike got to them late. That's why they were at work. So this issue requires an immediate intervention, and the intervention of the Senate will go a long way in ameliorating the sufferings that the people are being subjected to at this moment. The mover of the motion has also copiously argued the motion and therefore does not require so much argument. The prayers are straightforward, and I urge my colleagues to kindly support the motion. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
The additional prayer is that the federal government to create opportunities for effective participation of the private sector in establishing medical colleges to produce more medical doctors for the health sector in Nigeria.
And find lasting solutions to end the ongoing strike. Those who are in support of this prayer, one say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, encourage the federal government to address the underlying issues leading to frequent strikes in the health sector and develop sustainable policies to prevent future occurrences, thereby safeguarding the health and well-being of all Nigerians. Those who are in support of prayer 2 say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, emphasize the need for the federal government to prioritize investments in the healthcare sector, including the improvement of healthcare infrastructure, capacity building for medical personnel, and the development of policies to enhance healthcare delivery in Nigeria. Those who are in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Call on the resident doctors to consider the humanitarian implications of their strike action and prioritize the well-being and lives of patients, particularly in the face of the diphtheria disease outbreak in many parts of our dear country. Those who are in support of prayer 4 say aye, and those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5, mandate relevant committees of the Senate, when constituted, to conduct an inquiry into the underlying issues leading to the resident doctors' strike, and therefore make recommendations for the sustainable resolution of their concerns. Those who are in support of prayer 5 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 6, direct the Federal Ministry of Health through the Center for Disease Control, CDC, to swiftly implement measures to contain the spread of diphtheria diseases in affected states, and thereafter ensure that necessary medical supplies and resources are readily made available to combat this outbreak. Those who are in support of prayer 6 say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Let me, on behalf of the Senate, thank our dear brother and distinguished Senator Akintunde Yunus Abiodun for this all-important prayer, and hope that the resolutions of the Senate as met today will be implemented with seriousness and also taken into consideration in the ongoing strike. We also hope that the resident doctors will listen to the plea of the Nigerian Senate that met today to end this strike, particularly taking cognizance of the humanitarian aspect of it, the number of lives that are lost. Their profession is generally to save lives, not to lose lives. So we from the Senate are appealing to them that yes, while the ongoing negotiations are being made, that they should consider and suspend this strike in the humanitarian interest for the benefit of all Nigerians, even for the benefit of their families. And we will continue to monitor the progress. Thank you, Leader of the Senate.
Well, while the recent strike spearheaded by the Association of Resident Doctors is already being called off, the lawmakers are still in the act trying other means of preventing more strikes. I also have here the session from the red floor where senators on the same day passed for second and third readings an amendment bill to the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act. The amendment is aimed at reviewing number of executive directors and the Commission's directorate. Let's have a little of the proceeding here.
This bill be read a second time. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Distinguished senators, a bill for now to amend the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act 2000 and for matters connected there with 2023, second reading.
And the Leader of the Senate and all those that initiated this amendment. I believe that this amendment will bring better accountability, transparency, and will enhance the overall operation of the NDDC, sorry. And it is important that we'll do all we can to make sure that this entity, which was established to enhance the living conditions and bring about the even development, infrastructure development of the entire the Niger Delta region, in a way that it should be a place that we will all be proud of. I feel this is okay because the fact that the the Northeast Development Commission, as we speak, has three executive directors. And if you compare the operations, the transparency you see in that entity is quite different from what we've been hearing about happening in the NDDC. So it's good we create an environment similar to what we've seen in the Northeast Development Commission, which is doing very well. It's doing very well. Better accountability, better transparency in the operations. And this cannot be unconnected to the fact that they have this kind of structure. So creating this kind of structure in Niger Delta Development Commission is something that we should all support. It is working out there, it's working in Northeast Development Commission, it has been proven. So doing the same thing. Because over the years we've been hearing about how things are not being done well in Niger Delta Development Commission. And the few years that the NEDC, the Northeast Development Commission has become operational, we've seen the strides that have been achieved. We've seen the transparency that has been demonstrated. So I believe and I support that we should create a structure similar to what we are seeing, or we have seen over the years, in these very few years, that is being done in the Northeast Development Commission. So I support, and I urge my colleagues to support this important bill. I so submit.
Yes, distinguished Senator Sadiq.
NDDC was established to ameliorate the pain of Niger Delta people, as well as to stimulate development. And since it has been established, we've had experiences. We also have the Northeast Development Commission to learn from. And having this department and amending the appropriate sections to accommodate is straightforward. And I think, Mr. President, I support that we make this bill to go for second reading.
Yes, distinguished Senator Isinaso.
The amendment to the NDDC Act, as is being proposed, is not complete. If you add one additional executive director to the two that we have, that is what he's seeking to amend. Then we have to also go further to amend the order in which member states will enjoy such appointment. Because in the substituting bill, in the principal act, the managing director and the two executive directors comes in a particular order. That is the order of oil production. That is why today we have somebody from Ondo State as EDP and somebody from Edo State as Executive Director of Finance and Administration. So in amending this act, we have to go further to say that one of the three executive directors will also come in terms of oil quantum. Because if that happens, then Imo State will be in the line to benefit. Because immediately after Ondo, as it is right now, is going to be Imo State in that order. So, Mr. President, I recommend most sincerely that before we go to public hearing of this bill, if there may be need for that, okay, when we are doing the clause-by-clause consideration, I will urge the Senate leader to kindly add it there in this amendment. I support the bill wholeheartedly. Thank you, Mr. President.
I rise to lend my support to the second reading of this bill. As already said, the Niger Delta Development Commission has been bedeviled with so many challenges. And this amendment is meant to address those challenges. By doing so, we are protecting the public revenue, which the National Assembly is meant to really protect. So it's a very straightforward amendment, and I urge my colleagues to support it. By so doing, it will enhance transparency and accountability in the way Niger Delta Development Commission is being run. We know of recent there has been a lot of controversies, and if this amendment will address such challenges and all the allegations made, I think it's a welcome development, and the National Assembly should support it. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to amend the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act 2000 and for matters connected with 2023. Second reading taken. Leader of the Senate. The second reading taken and referred to Committee of the Whole. A bill for an act to amend sections 2H, 9.1, 10A, 12.1 of the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act, Cap 86, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, by increasing the number of executive directors from 2 to 3, and 6 to add a new section 9, which creates a new Directorate of Corporate Services and for related matters therewith. Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act Amendment Bill 2023. Long title. Page 1. number of clause 1. Amendment of the Principal Act, page 1. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Amendment of section 9 on page 4. I'm going. Yes. Amendment of clause 2. You see section 2, right? On page 1. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Amendment of clause of section 9, that is clause 3, right? On page 4. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. Yes. Yes.
Mr. President, I want to add amendment to page 2 that Anambra State, which has proven oil deposits and has been gazetted as one of the oil producing states, be added to the list. This is very correct. Why are you saying no? Please, I'm making. I think I'm protected, Mr. President, and then I can also submit the gazetted documentation to that, Mr. President, that Anambra should be added on the list of states with proven oil deposits and contributing to national account, federation account already. Thank you, Mr. President.
Order 52.4. A senator must confine his observations to the subject under discussion. I may not introduce matter irrelevant thereto. Mr. President, including a state or declaring a state as an oil producing is something that is done differently from what we are doing here. There's a procedure for it. So I call on my colleague to please follow that procedure in getting what he wants to be done. And he can bring it whenever he feels we should be part of the process, and then we get it done. So for now, this is quite, it's not in conformity with what we are doing now. I still submit.
Order 52.4. A senator is not allowed to read his. A senator must confine his observations to the subjects under discussion and may not introduce matter irrelevant thereto. Mr. President, I think the operative word there is irrelevant thereto. And the amendment we sought to put on the list of states that are all producing is not irrelevant.
Distinguished colleagues, we also have another motion on ground by the Senate leader that we revert to plenary, and that has been seconded by the Senate minority leader. Those who are in support of the motion that we revert to plenary to report progress, say aye, and those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Consider the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act Amendment Bill 2023 and approve as follows. Amendment of the Principal Act as recommended. Amendment of Section 2 as amended. Amendment of Section 9 as recommended. Amendment of Section 10 as amended, as recommended. Amendment of Section 12 as recommended. The short title of the bill, Clause 6 as recommended. The schedule No amendment. Explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
May I now move that the Niger Delta Development Commission NDDC Act Amendment Bill 2023 be now read the third time. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to second that the bill Niger Delta Development Commission be read for the third time. I so second.
Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The bill will now be read for the third time. Clerk of the Senate.
Distinguished Senators, a bill for an act to amend the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act 2000 and for matters connected therewith 2023, third reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to amend the Niger Delta Development Commission Establishment Act 2000 and for matters connected therewith 2023, third reading taken and passed.
The Senate also the same day adopted a motion seeking to enhance performance of officers and men of the Nigerian Customs Service through training and other activities. The motion, which is seeking upgrade of existing colleges and more, is standing in the name of a Bauchi State Senator, Shehu Buba.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my motions is on the urgent need to prioritize the implementation of item number 262 in the Appropriation Act 2023, Nigerian Customs Service, Capital Cost 2023 Budget Proposal, Details Breakdowns, Annex 3, being construction of Nigerian Customs Service Academy and Nigerian Training Custom Training School, Bauchi as a one-stop custom academy and training school shop in Nigeria. Mr. President, the Senate observed that Nigerian Customs Service, being an organization that is considered as a cash cow revenue generating collecting body in Nigeria and in keeping with its core mandate of collections of revenue, preventions and suppressions of smuggling, collaboration with other relevant agencies, facilitations of international trade and economic development requires a great deal of professionalism, which flows primarily from training and retraining of officers and personnel of the service for optimal performance. Aware that because of the phenomenal concerns as stated above vis-a-vis the evolving challenges associated with the service, the federal government in its wisdom proposed for additional training school academy to be cited in Bauchi State, which is contained in item number 262 on the details of the Appropriation Act 2023, Nigerian Customs Service Capital Cost 2023 Budget Proposal Detailed Breakdown, Annex 3, and is projected to be the best of its kind due to a number of factors such as easy accessibility, apt location, peaceful environment, complementary existing infrastructures, and supportive local communities, among others. Mr. President, also note that the construction of additional custom training academy to the existing ones will provide the needed professional training towards meeting the demands of institutions in the country, thereby bringing our officers, personnel of the Nigerian Customs Service in tune with the current realities of professionalism in all their dealings and international best practice, thereby ridding them of unprofessionals, unethical conduct, and hopeful that the federal government, under the able leadership of Excellency President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, GCFR, having come with the good mantra of renewed hope, will no doubt leave no stone unturned as far as full implementation of budget is concerned, particularly the likes of proposed customs service training, schools academy, Bauchi. Mr. President, with your kind permission, I so moved. Thank you, sir.
My distinguished colleagues, I rise to second this all-important motion as moved by my colleague, my brother and friend, Senator Shehu Buba. I so second. And in so doing, Mr. President, if you permit me, let me, in supporting this motion, add my voice by saying that this motion is very important in light of what this Senate on the 19th of July discussed on the motion sponsored by Senator Yaradua on the need, clearly from the discussions of the Senate that day, for customs and indeed all other security agencies to be trained and retrained and retrained. And we identified this gap during the debate on that day as part of the challenges and problems the customs are facing in this country. Therefore, the implementation and takeoff of this one-stop academy is important in achieving and curing that particular deficit that we have noted in the customs service. And indeed, retraining and training is a critical component of what is required for us to have effective, efficient, and standard customs service in Nigeria. So, Mr. President, I support this motion, and I urge that all of my colleagues do kindly support this motion. Thank you.
So let's rush to the prayers, and anybody, unless somebody has an amendment to any of the prayers. Prayer 1, commend the federal government on its resolve at solving the ever-growing training needs of Nigerian Customs Services officers and personnel with a view to meeting the international best practices and curbing locally disturbing concerns of misconduct and lack of professionalism within the service. Those who are in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, urge the federal government of Nigeria to ensure prompt and speedy implementation of item number 263 contained in the Appropriation Act 2023, Nigeria Customs Service Capital Cost 2023, budget proposal, detailed breakdown, Annex 3. The land for the planned construction having been earmarked already. Those who are in support of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, mandate the Committee on Customs, Excise and Tariff, when constituted, to embark on effective oversight, as it has always been, for the first of its kind state-of-the-art facility, and ensure its full implementation.
And that's the maize this week. Many thanks for watching. We do it again next week at 8 p.m. I am Rosemary UKOKO-TEGA.